Watch how I stand and how I hold the tools, and also notice I'm wearing a face shield. So there's a couple ways. You can hold here, you can hold here. Important thing is that the tool, the gouge, this is a roughing gouge I'm holding, touches the tool rest before it touches the wood. If I go in there and touch the wood first, it's going to spin around like this, and it'll slam the tool down on the tool rest. The tool handle is like this. The end of the handle is in my right hand. If you're left-handed, you can just opposite this. And that's against my side. The other end of the tool is on the tool rest, and I can hold it up close. Your fingers are safe here. They're not safe if you put them in there. As long as you don't go in front of this tool rest, you're fine. So that's where you hold your tool. I hold the tool sometimes like this, sometimes like this, whatever is comfortable for you. But you don't hold it back here. Have it up here, somewhere where you can guide it. Okay. And exaggeratedly, way down low like this is where you start. Because you're going to listen to the tool bumping against the wood, and then you're going to bring it up until it starts cutting. And when you get it up that far, that will be the angle that you use when it starts cutting. Now I'll do that with the machine on. I have the tool way down low. Now it's bumping, it's not cutting yet. I'm going to bring it up to the angle where it just starts cutting. There, I see some chips. That's the angle to use. And you work your way back and forth, cutting chips off. If you push in hard, you'll get this result. It'll bounce a lot. You experiment. You don't really want it to bounce a lot. Notice I'm moving my body side to side, swaying back and forth. All right, that's all it took to get that round. Remember a few minutes ago, that tool rest was right up against the wood. There was a square piece of wood in here, and it was hitting the tool rest. Now there's about a ½ inch gap. You need to keep closing up that gap. So I'm going to grab the cam on the tool rest and slide it in closer. You don't want a big gap, you want a small gap in there. I'll turn it once to make sure it's freely moving. I have this piece of square stock mounted in the lathe. There's the tool rest. Now when I turn on the lathe at low speed, you can see the edges spinning around. As I speed it up, depending on which speed I'm at, you'll see this little circle in the middle here. I'll see if I can get a pencil mark on it. Right there, what you're doing is you're cutting on the very tip that's out here. I'll speed it up a little more, see if I can get a pencil right there. That's where you'll be cutting. This part between here and here represents the flat part of the wood. This is a roughing gouge. Any of the tools must go on the tool rest first and they come up towards the work. Now look at this square piece. If I come in here like this, look at that big chunk I've got to cut off there. That's impossible. We can't do that. You have to come down very low and start slowly moving the tool towards the wood until you hear it bumping. Very slowly you move it up until you just hear it bumping. And you keep in that position, and I'm raising my right hand up now, which lowers the cutting edge of the tool until I get till it's just nipping a piece off, and that's the angle at which you're going to cut. I'll show you that in motion now. Up we come very slowly, just bumping. I'm bringing my right hand up until you just see a piece chip off, and that is where you start moving sideways to nip little bits of the wood off. I'll do a little piece right on the end here so you can really easily see what it is that's getting nipped off. We don't want it to bounce in and out like this. See, it's grabbing the wood too much. It's better just be nipping little bits off. Again, we don't want it to bounce in and out. It'll stick. It'll get caught. It won't do anything if you're pushing too hard. Let the wood come to the tool just a little bits around the outside edge. Speed it up now. It should sound like this. No cutting now. Bringing the tool up from my right hand so the blade goes down. Now it's cutting a little bit and that's the angle I'm going to use. Now you'll see I've trimmed a little bit off. It'll take a little longer to get the whole block turned. I'll do some of that. This is the roughing gouge. It has a white mark on the handle. It's wide and it's only used for cutting from square stock down to round. Once you get to round, you put it down and you pick up one of these other tools. Here's the bowl gouge. It has a yellow part on the handle. It looks like that, and you can cut lots of different shapes in there. And you can use the spindle gouge. It has green. You can cut between centers with the spindle gouge. This is the parting tool. It cuts like this, not like this. I'm going to talk about writing the bevel now. So all of these tools have a bevel. Here's the bevel and the parting tool. If I put that bevel on this wood like this, it's rubbing. See how it's rubbing against the bevel right there? That part rubs. That's called riding the bevel. Now I'm going to raise my right hand up just enough so you start seeing a little tiny bit sliced off. That's the angle at which you want to do your cutting. If you bring your tool up at an angle like this, it's going to try diving into the wood. It's going to try diving towards the center of the wood, and it's going to make a big gouge like that. Same with the roughing gouge. You want to have the angle such that you are just barely slicing off a little bit. So this bevel back here rubs on the circular part of the wood. If you dig it up, if you lift it up too high, it's going to dig in like that, and it's going to take a big, huge chunk off, and you're going to get what is called a catch. It'll tear your work apart. So you want to ride the bevel very gently like that. Okay? The same is true of the bowl gouge or the spindle gouge. If I have this part of the bevel here rubbing against the wood, that's good. It's not cutting yet, but it will if I raise my right hand up just a little bit. Now it's starting to cut. Now on this bowl gouge, I usually get it up to that angle, and then I turn, keeping the bevel against the wood, and start scraping around this way. Or I turn that direction. But again, the bevel is riding against the wood. I just finished getting my spindle to round using the roughing gouge, white marking on the handle. Next I'm going to make a cove and a bead. I'll put a mark on here, I'll make a cove between those two marks, and I'll make a bead in here, and I'll make another cove between here and here. Now I can use either the spindle gouge or the bowl gouge. They'll do similar jobs for this. I'll start with the spindle gouge. I'm going to start in the center, cut to the outside. I'm always cutting downhill, so you move towards the center. My cove is going to be right in here. I'm going from the outside towards the center, outside towards the center. I'm going downhill. You can see the deeper part of the cut is in the middle, and the surface is up here. I'm going down into the center, which is downhill. I can do the same thing now with the bowl gouge. I'll do it on the other side. You watch, I kind of let the wood push my tool that way by mistake, so you have to control it as you go in. I'm going to rub, come up, turn, and go downhill. rub on the bevel, come up till it's just cutting, turn, go downhill, and follow around. You get a nice smooth curve. I'll bring it out this way a ways. You get a nice smooth curve if you follow the bevel. What we're looking for is the edge, this bevel of the tool rubbing against the curve. I'll make a nice sweeping curve here. Do that again. What I want you to be looking at is right in here where the bevel is following the curve. The bevel right here. Rubs against there. Rubs against the curve. It's called riding the bevel. Right. I'm going to make this into a bead now. For a bead, both sides need to be about the same diameter on left and right, so I'll cut this one down a little further. It's easier to fit a spindle gouge into a tight spot, so I'm going to use that to get in here. Can you tell I'm always going downhill? Some people wonder what I mean by downhill. Going from here down this way is downhill. When I get over here, I would be going uphill. If you go uphill, you'll get a catch. Maybe I'll demonstrate that for you. Here I'm going to go downhill. When I get to the bottom of this cove, there's nowhere else to go but up, so that's when I stop cutting there. I'll do it a little more. Stop there. If I go in this way, the tool will tend to catch. It's not doing it for me right now, but you'll find it will. I'm going to cut in this way, cut a little sharper out here. Now this is going straight across. This is neither uphill nor downhill. I'm just trying to go straight across. I'll use the bowl gouge. This one has a little more sharpness to it. And if I go straight in there, I want you to see something. If this edge of the tool hits this face here, it's going to grab the tool. So we can do that real slowly, see what happens. It grabs the tool. You don't want that, you want to be going this way, so you're not going to grab the tool.